Is SpaceX then just going to buy Tesla?
Conspiracy theory CJ can't come out and play anymore. I think that within a year, SpaceX buys Tesla. They've already bought the ticker ELON.
No way.
He already bought the ticker for that. And what this would help with is a lot of the governance issues that he's been having. Because people are always complaining, like, I'm a Tesla shareholder, but you're spending like 50% of your time at Twitter and 30% of your time at SpaceX and all these other things that you're doing. So having them all under one roof would make it hard to criticize because it's a combined entity. And also, by SpaceX going public, it allows Elon to have a mark-to-market valuation, right? Because valuation every day is the price of a share times number outstanding of the company to use as currency to do the transaction. Because to date, he's been criticized when he buys his own companies as being like, dude, you just literally pulled that number out of your ass. How are we supposed to feel comfortable about that? Like with the Twitter deal, right? It's in the private markets and it's between two affiliated parties. That's not really an arm's length transaction. So it'll allow him to, I think, free up a lot of bandwidth to do whatever he wants within it. And also, like, you know how hard it is going to be to figure out which business units are doing well versus poorly?
What's wild to me is the trend that it gets pushed by activist investors is to often like unbundle these big conglomerates into their own business units because the individual business units like would be valued higher than the combined entity, right? If they're standalone companies. But Musk is going like the complete opposite direction.
History is just bundling and unbundling. But to your point, the majority of M&A transactions like this have played out where you unbundle because you think that one business unit is being kind of pulled down by the multiple that a different business unit is getting.
So does this only work when the combined entity is growing really fast? But if certain business units start to shrink or, stabilize, and then others are growing quickly, but like not quickly enough to make the overall combined entity growing fast, like could he bundle in as Elon and then unbundle again?
So I think this one is less about growth and more about access to capital. So Tesla is an extremely capital intensive business. Running data centers in space is an incredibly capital intensive business. Creating rockets and having the launches for it, that takes a lot of money. And so if you can pool capital and get a lower rate by putting them together, I think it's worth it. And like we mentioned before, there are material weaknesses in certain aspects of each unit, right? Like XAI has a ton of compute, doesn't have a lot of customers. Tesla seems to be selling a ton of cars, but also wants to do these humanoid robots. Could you use the warehouses where you're developing the Tesla parts to do the humanoid robots and also to build spacecrafts in there? Maybe. And like, I don't think there's any human on Earth who knows more about factories for producing these things than Musk. So I kind of get it, but as like a financial person, I'm like, holy shit, this is a Russian doll with 7 layers.
Separating Tesla out of it, SpaceX alone, you had said you thought might be valued at 1.75 trillion, making it the 7th most valuable company out there. I think we talked about 20 billion in revenue this year. That's a pretty high forward multiple on revenue or a current revenue multiple.
So they're forecasted if you go in the next 12 months, probably something around 28 billion. A lot of it is driven by the subscriber growth in Starlink. That is the true engine behind it. And so if they get 1.5 trillion as a valuation, that's a 50x forward revenue multiple. 2 trillion as a valuation, that is a 70x forward revenue multiple. So the median tech company today is trading at 3x, and the top 10 of like the 142 I track each week is trading at 14x. This would even be higher than Palantir, which trades at 50x.
Compare this to Anthropic. If Anthropic were to be at a 50x forward multiple, what would they be worth?
Oh man. Well, what was the latest number that they were approaching 40 billion in ARR?
Somewhere around 40 billion, which means by the end of the year, who knows? Maybe 80 billion by the end of this year? I don't know.
At this rate, Anthropic is going to also IPO above $1 trillion. It's just wild that a company this large is going to receive a revenue multiple this big. So NVIDIA to date is the largest company trading at the largest revenue multiple, like relative to its size, and that's 18x. Tesla's trading at 14x. These are multi-trillion dollar companies. This company is trying to trade at between 50 and 70x. So it's like, holy shit, what do you have to believe now in order to underwrite something that may not even get to a rational multiple for 4 years?
What does Comcast trade for?
A beefy 1.5x.
If nothing else, the communication of taking a business that is an internet subscription business, basically what Comcast is, and being able to credibly communicate 50 times the revenue multiple. You gotta give them credit for the investor relations of this all.
You do, but, like, I think that there's a case to be made that they also have the strongest moat of any company out there because they're responsible for 85% of all the space missions and launches that happen today. So what else could you put into space? Like I said, I'm not a rocket scientist to know what is better in space than better on Earth. I like it here on Earth personally, but if there's something valuable to put up there, they're the only way to get there, right?
Well, Bezos, I think, will be betting that they can give a run for their money. But yeah, I mean, having the monopoly on that gives him a lot of flexibility. So if one of his bets doesn't pay off, he has a lot of other options. And it's nice to have a monopoly on something that's important.
Wouldn't it be wild to be like, oh, we're the Uber of space travel?
All right. So this could be valued at a lot of money. And I think that if I'm an Anthropic, I actually probably want SpaceX to go public first and get this kind of valuation because that makes Anthropic look like maybe a $4 trillion company.
I have two wrinkles that I think could not artificially, but could structurally boost the share price of this, Kyle.
What are they?
The first one is they've changed the rules on what's allowed in the S&P 500 to make it so you only have to wait 15 days. And so if it's allowed in the S&P 500, think of like Magnificent Seven. This is going to be definitely within that. And it's going to be included in a lot of ETFs and therefore people's 401k plans.
So you think this helps valuation because it just gives them a lot more capital access?
Way more surface area, and it's going to get picked up by these mutual funds that like they know it's in there, but it wasn't like the sole reason why they were buying it.
Right. So it's more like, not to say dumb money, but like money that's kind of insensitive to what the price is. It's just including it as part of an index.
Exactly. It's part of a broader index, one that you would want to be in where the probably largest pools of capital flow because it's like all these 401ks and pension funds, right?
That's one potential wave. What was the other one?
The second thing is the allocation they're making for retail investors. So typically in an IPO, only maybe 10% is allocated for people like you and me to buy. I think it was when Figma went public. Everyone was complaining that on Robinhood they couldn't buy any shares because there wasn't enough float. They'd be like, oh, I put in an order for 2, I got 0. For this, they're allocating 30% to retail investors.
So is this a meme stock? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, they're betting on people not doing their homework and just like stupidly saying, I love Elon, I'm going to buy up the stock, buy. And he also has a massive incentive to get the market price up because he gets bonuses based on how much it's worth. I think he has a huge payout at $7 trillion. So it's not going to definitely hit that on day one by any means. But this does give them a cushion or maybe a push by people who may not be the most rational investors in the world and want to hype it up.
And who he can access through owning a social media platform. He can hype up his own stock. I know you disagree with me, CJ, or I think you disagree with me, but this to me feels like GameStop meets Comcast meets like just market insanity.
Space, Kyle, space. A lot of this gives me the ick, but the subscriber growth of Starlink and the number of people who could potentially access it around the earth, it's 8 billion people could potentially access this. That is what gives me maybe the upside case, and also the fact that like if you own the only road to get somewhere, I would love to collect a toll on it. Like I'm buying that stock.
You just love the 63% EBITDA margins on Starlink.
I do.
It's your love language.
Love it, hate it is going to be the largest IPO that's ever occurred.
All right, well, we'll see how it turns out.
Ali and the team at Tabs are building something that directly addresses one of the biggest headaches I see finance teams deal with today. Pulling data from your ERP, your CRM, your FP&A tools, and your usage systems and actually making it all work together. If you're running usage-based pricing or complex contracts, you already know how this usually plays out. Contracts live in one system, usage data lives somewhere else, billing happens in another tool. RevRec gets layered on top at month end, and finance ends up just reconciling everything by hand to close the books. This is exactly the problem Tabs was built to solve. Tabs is an AI-native revenue platform built for controllers and CFOs. It brings together data from your ERP, CRM, and real product usage into a single system of record, From there, it automates billing, collections, and revenue recognition without finance having to duct tape workflows together every month. If usage-based revenue is core to your business, this is the future of how billing and RevRec get done. Go check them out at tabs.com/run. That's tabs.com/run.